You're watching NewsX. Now, ladies and gentlemen, something quite remarkable has happened which might have gotten missed from your mind space or radar, given so much that is taking place. Of course, we're interested in, what happened in the votes and who voted where. Unfortunately, all the polls and exit polls can only come to you on June 1st, and the results, we'll have to wait till June 4th. But while the elections were happening today, the Prime Minister of this country, sitting in a temple town in Madhya Pradesh, made an announcement in what was an election rally that, ladies and gentlemen, as we speak, a jet has taken off to land in the Philippines to deliver made in India BrahMos missiles. He went on to point out that you look at Pakistan right now, the country is going hungry after having worked on terrorism, and that's the plane. Okay? As we speak, there's global turmoil. Most likely Israeli drones have just hit back on Iran after 300 drones and missiles from Iran hit Israel. Didn't do much damage, but did hit Israel a few days ago. There's a war on in Ukraine. There's a crisis in the Red Sea in which Indian ships are operating. All these things do matter, even though an election is on. So it comes down to our place in the world and how an election, which means your vote, my vote, and the vote of the people sitting here, what role does that play? Does it have any role, or is it totally disconnected? And then it translates into what is power and prestige. Now, I'm sure Narendra Modi has a gravitas and a personality and a nature and a way of thinking. Good on him. Okay, that's good for a leader to have those things. But in the end, his credibility has come from the fact that he has had a clear mandate. All leaders across the globe respect the value of a credible mandate. That's where the power and gravitas and sense of purpose comes from. Everything else gets added on top of that. Now, that is not to say that only one party can ever offer a credible mandate or a stable government in this country. There have been many others that have offered that in the past. Even coalition governments have survived 5 years. A few of them in the 90s didn't work. And of course, rug was pulled under the feet of Atal Bihari Vajpayee once upon a time as well. But aside from the politics, in a new India, in a new era, what is the value when we say stable mandate? Let's open up this conversation. Sumit P stays on with us, Professor Nalapat still with us, and General Dhruv Katoch joining us. General Katoch, what is the value of a stable democratic mandate in terms of India's economy, in terms of India's diplomacy?
Thank you, Rishabh. Rishabh, let's get one thing very clear, that if India has to progress, the most important aspect is to have political stability. And political stability, in my view, can be achieved if a party has 272 plus seats. So that, you don't have to depend on anybody else to carry on the business of the House or to pass any laws or legislation or what have you. That does not mean that there will not be consultation. But when too many parties have joined hands together to form a government, then there is inherent stability in that government because there are contradictions and pulls in different directions. Now, I know this for a fact because foreign governments are looking for an unstable political situation in India so that they can control the narrative. And right down to the extent that one of my meetings where there were some foreign people there, one of them made a statement. He said, India, this is regarding the Ukraine war, that India is on the wrong side of history, simply because we chose an independent stance. Now, people don't like independent stance because they think that we are still, the pre-independence era. And when they tell India to get up, they will jump and bark like a dog or do whatever you have to do. Now, it's a different India. And we have become strong and purposeful because we have a strong polity. From a strong political establishment flows strong economics, flows strong security establishments, flows in research and development and all other activities, including agriculture, etc. But if you don't have a stable polity, then you will find all other institutions actually. I'm not saying they will suffer a decay, but they will certainly not be able to perform to the optimal limits.
Okay.
So a stable democracy, I think, is important, and to achieve that stable polity, I feel the people must give their vote to any one party, but it should be in reasonable quantity so that the stable polity.
All right. Let me get Professor Nalapad. Now, Professor Nalapad, you've been tracking Narendra Modi for the better part of 3 decades. Okay. So there are some skills in the man, there are some abilities in the man, but all of those are irrelevant if, number one, the people don't give him a position of leadership. But how are they enhanced if that position of leadership is quintessentially what we've just described, a stable mandate?
Rishabh, the fact is that whether as Chief Minister or now as Prime Minister, Narendra Modi works to a plan. He devises a plan and he works to it. And my assessment is, in these last 2 terms, the first term was spent in clearing up the debris, because there's so much of debris from the past that needed to be cleared away. The next 5 years was basically building the structure for rapid growth. So now the way is open for rapid growth. And therefore, a 3rd term will see a period of double-digit growth and very large amounts of investment, both domestically and from abroad. So that is why it is important, frankly, for this 3rd term for Narendra Modi. He has done work.
Okay, so let me rephrase the question.
For this next 5 years.
The fact that he's had a 300 plus party mandate, okay, a very comfortable majority, one of the best in the country in the past 30 years. How is that helped in terms of our defense production and foreign policy and decision making and global prestige, as well as the execution of economic policy and domestic policy?
Rishabh, Narendra Modi has a clear geopolitical line that aligns with the interests of India. He is quite aware the world is now in a new Cold War. And the adversary is no longer Russia, its adversary is China. Adversary means China has become an adversary because of its own misbehavior, because it has tried to grab chunks of Indian territory. It's not that there was no effort on our side. We made every effort. They did not. And as a consequence, what's happening is that you are seeing a huge amount of knowledge about India and a huge amount of understanding about India. There were no sanctions at all, despite the fact that India has been buying copious quantities of Russian oil. Why? Because the importance of India in securing the Indo-Pacific is recognized. The importance of India as an alternative production platform to China is recognized. Now, the point is, this is a plan that has been devised by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It needs Prime Minister Narendra Modi to basically ensure that the benefits of this plan get actualized in the next 5 years, especially in the form of investment and in the form of, if I may say so, a vastly increased rate of economic growth. That's why a 3rd term is very, very important.
So let me pick this up with Sumit. Okay, Sumit, first part of the question is a credible mandate, not you got 240 and some 30-40 from allies and you made the government survive somehow for 5 years, okay? But a credible, emphatic mandate. What has that allowed a Narendra Modi to do, which otherwise would have been difficult to do?
Rishabh ji, first of all, we have lived in a decade where we were told something called coalition dharma, where aankh band kar lo, let my coalition partners loot the country, coalition dharma. Then we learned of something called saffron terror, right, which was a figment of imagination. And yesterday I was on NewsX, one of the Congress Pravakta ji was talking about alliance dharma. So if we have to balance between these funny dharmas and these terrors, then the country is gone down the drain. Fortunately, the country gave Prime Minister Modi a very resounding and a pakka mandate. So what happened? If the mandate was not there, could he have done 370? No. Could he have done a surgical strike? No. Could have done a Balakot? No. Could he have eliminated PFI in 2 days? No. Could we have a LCH built? Could we have a LCA built? Could we have an aircraft carrier built? Could we have done tests of 50 more than 50 missiles? Could we be a nuclear triad? Could we have revamped the DRDO? Could we have got the Russian oil? And yet there were no CATSCA sanctions. Could we have made our way in the League of Nations? Could we have such a successful G20? Could we handle China? Because we were told Chinese PLA will be in 3 days in Delhi. Now Modi said, no, it's not working. So could we have exported BrahMos to Philippines today? What is, Rishabh, if we are direct, why are we giving BrahMos to Philippines? Because we want to control China. Because if China is trying to poke their nose here and there, we are giving an adversary of China, our arming adversary of China, though they paid us $375 million for it, we are giving them arms. So if this arms industry is not revamped, we would have still lived with the Ordnance Factory Board. We got rid of that. We got up a defense industry in UP. We got defense industry in so many things. There are more than 1,270 items which we cannot import now. For Navy ammunition, we are 100% Atmanirbhar.
Okay.
We are building our LCH, and recently Ministry of Defense has given the biggest ever order to Air Force for our Tejas. So if you look at all those things, all those staunch decisions which Prime Minister Modi could take, it's only when the people of the country gave him that absolute majority. If it was again coalition dharma, alliance dharma, ye dharma, wo dharma.
Okay, so now there are other two parts of it, and I just wanted to understand that this is just the reality of how the world works. Okay, so let's accept it rather than, I know sometimes you have to cry about it, but let's accept it. Okay, sometimes even your friends feel jealous when you're successful and would rather if you trip and fumble a little bit. Okay, so let me get Professor Nalapat back in. Professor Nalapat, when we look at investors or people who are making now multi-year capital investments into the country, who are buying into the argument that you intend to improving ease of doing business, who are buying into the argument of China plus one, who are buying into the diversification of their supply routes and are looking at India, what are they looking at this election as?
Well, they are looking at ensuring that a leader who understands the tectonic shifts in geopolitics that has taken place is there at the helm. Prime Minister Modi reinvigorated the Quad. He signed the 4 foundation agreements with the United States. A huge number of military exercises have been conducted with the United States and with other powers in the Indo-Pacific, which is basically aimed to ensure that one single country does not dominate the Indo-Pacific or the Eurasian landmass. India was against a system in which one country dominated when the Americans were dominating. We were opposed to that. Today, we are against the same kind of system of one country dominating when China is attempting to dominate. It's nothing new for us. We would like to ensure a multipolar world order in which there is equity and in which every country has a voice. And that is why India is the leader of the global south. China is not part of the global south, whether geographically or in terms of GDP. Not at all. It is India that is leading the global south. And you saw how the African Union was brought into the G20 by Prime Minister Modi.
Yes.
You have seen so many ways in which he has really helped the global south.
Okay.
And throughout the global south, Indian technology and Indian science is working to ensure that their potential is realized.
Obviously,
so I would like to say he has made us a leader of the global south, and in that he has made us a leader of the globe.
So obviously on any other given day, ladies and gentlemen, for those who understand this, know that the simple aircraft taking off and unloading what are cruise missiles into another country is one of the biggest tectonic indicators that can possibly go out. I can tell you for granted that the Japanese, the Taiwanese, many other countries in the ASEAN, the Indonesians, the Vietnamese who have equal sea issues with the Chinese will be watching very carefully. And of course, the Chinese are watching this very carefully. So let me get General Katoch back in. General Katoch, but all of it emanates from the fact that you have to have not only the gumption, but the political ability to do so. To the credit of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, it would not have been easy to decide that we are going to test the nuclear bombs, knowing full well that your entire administrative setup, potentially your entire foreign service, would have been warning you that we will not be able to survive what is coming. So you have to have the political gumption and ability also to take these decisions, which you know are not going to be happily received by very powerful interests, both within and without. So again, it comes down, why is that mandate important? Why are votes important?
Rishabh, you spoke about Prime Minister Vajpayee. Now, there is a statement of his which I recall at that point of time because there were certain reforms which he wished to carry out. And when he was asked, why couldn't you do that? He made a very simple answer. He said, Aankde kahan hai? Where are the numbers? Indian polity was so badly split. When you're dealing with a coalition with multiple partners, it is very, very difficult to actually carry it along. Prime Minister Modi does not have that problem. He's a brilliant leader, as Madhav Nalpatta so eloquently stated. But even for a brilliant leader, you require that political strength. He's got that political strength. Now, both of them have to work in tandem. You've got a number of 300, 350, and you don't have that brilliance on the top, it won't work. But if you have that brilliance on the top and the BJP gets something like 150, 175 seats, it is going to be very difficult even for Narendra Modi to push through what he wishes to do. The major reforms which have been conducted, you see, are many. But what is left now, in my view, the three major reforms which are required, one is the bureaucracy. That has to change. That is one. The second major reforms is the way we, as far as economics is concerned, I think a much greater deal of liberalization will be required, especially even in the defense sector, despite the fact so much has been done. The private sector, I think, has to come in a very, very big way. And the last major reform, I think, is as far as the judicial system is concerned. Our judiciary is too sluggish, it is too slow. And unless we are somehow able to turn that around, our justice delivery mechanisms really will
all
not
tough
be
things, very difficult things to do. Okay, so let me then ask Sumit Peer, has Narendra Modi respected and utilized the mandate he has been given thus far well?
Then we had Tawang, we had COVID, and amidst all the challenges, and we had 1.4 billion people to be inoculated. We had economic lockdowns. We had all the things that could go wrong. And if you look at today our macro and macroeconomic parameters, we have accelerated ourselves into defense from an arms net importer to exporter. $640 billion of GDP, third biggest economy by 40 PPP, for 14.6 trillion is what is the PPP number. Now you are from a net importer of mobile phones. You're a number second biggest exporter of mobile phones. You're the number two investment, manufacturing destination of the world. You're the country who is getting the highest FDI. We have surpassed China. You've built a startup system which is phenomenal. $330 billion of wealth created and more than 800,000 people employed. You have created your LCH, LCA, and you have all that. You got your 5G rollout, which is the fastest in the world. You're working on the 6G. You're filing the maximum number of patents in the whole world per month. And you have got more IITs, more IIMs, 390 universities, 359 medical colleges. If this is not development, if this is not done, you're building more roads than anybody else in the world. You're more roads than United States of America. You're building a road. You're more than a kilometer of road than an hour. And with that, you're also maintaining the country. You're also feeding 80 crore people. You increase your geopolitical standard. You have put Pakistan on his knees.
So
and
in
you have
short,
told
you are
China,
saying yes.
do not mess with us.
So you are saying yes, he has not wasted the mandate and the time of the people for 5 years. Then Professor Nalapat, then I'm assuming that the genesis of the logic of this entire premise of the poll cycle, which is the Modi guarantee, how would you resonate with it on the basis of what we've seen, that if another term was indeed given by the voters who are in the process of deciding who they're going to vote for, that we can take it for granted, guaranteed, that 5 years will be well spent. This political mandate will once again be well utilized.
Rishabh, look at the discipline of this Prime Minister. Normally, when you have an election a year budget, you have slashed taxes. Taxes were not slashed. They remain the same. The fiscal deficit has come down. The revenue deficit has come down. It has taken a lot of discipline, but that came down. And he has maintained that kind of discipline. So that is the disciplined way in which he has been running the country, without resorting to, if I may say so, shortcuts to win temporary popularity at the expense of long-term growth. He has now built up a foundation for strong long-term growth. And now the question is investment coming in. And I can tell you, having talked to foreign investors in about 24 countries, they are all looking for the Modi 3.0 in order to ensure that they come to India and they invest in India, because he's a known quantity. They know what to expect. They know what reforms he has done. They know his commitment to reform, and they know his dedication to ensuring a Viksit Bharat. So from that point of view,
Okay.
it is going to be very, very important the next 5 years in terms of attracting the kind of investment that we need to take off into double-digit growth.
Okay, so it is boiling down, ladies and gentlemen, through the course of the next 2 months to all of us, what is our responsibility as stakeholders in the future of our country? Our responsibility and our duty is to look beyond whatever parochial interests all of us have. You have them, I have them. Okay? The temptations that we have, and the temptations might drag us to say that yes, it is a religion and caste and all these things of the old, because they are familiar. The guarantees of government jobs, because they are familiar, do matter. And to think, what does this country need as a whole? And then, if a country and its people, all of you, have given an individual and the party he leads a stable mandate for 10 years, has that person wasted that mandate or utilized it well? And therefore, is his job done? And if it isn't done, and more time is required to do more things, do you then wish to deliver a stable mandate because you then trust that it will be well utilized? There are no guarantees beyond our trust that we can give. And it boils down to these questions. And this is what the conversation for India is about. The rest, ladies and gentlemen, is all to and fro of politics. So I just want you to think of, as I wind up this conversation, that today one of the biggest transshipments has happened of a frontline technology to what now becomes a very important strategic partner in the Indo-Pacific, the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be just worth a few $1 million, but I want you to think that there are two biggest drains on our exchequer: energy and defense. And if in the next 5 years, maybe in the next 10, forget spending money on importing arms and ammunition, we are earning money by exporting arms and ammunition. That is not a meager incremental change. That is a fundamental shift in the presence of India, that is Bharat, on the face of the planet. I thank my guests. We take a break. See you in a minute.